guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'll be baking some snacks, and I don't really like to buy snacks and desserts from the store just because I like to bake them myself, but it's also nice to know what kind of ingredients are in there, and when I bake them myself I know everything that I put in there.
So I'll start out by making some chewy peanut butter chocolate chip granola bars. So I will need 6 eggs, 1 cup honey, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. I didn't have any vanilla extract, so I'm not using any, but if I had some on hand, I would definitely use it. 3/4 cups peanut butter, 6 cups oats, half a cup semi-sweet chocolate chips, and the recipe also calls for 1/4 cup of chopped pecans and 1/4 cup of dried cranberries. I didn't have any, so I'm using some peanuts instead. So I'll start out by whisking the eggs with a fork, and then I'll pour it into a large bowl, and the recipe says to heat up the honey so it's more liquidy, and it is. It's a lot easier to mix then. And I heated it up, I don't remember, I think it was 30 seconds. I will leave the recipe link down below if you want to try it. So after I heat it up, I will add it to the eggs, and I will heat up the peanut butter as well and pour it into this mixture and mix it very well until it's nice and smooth. So I will add 6 cups of oats to this mixture, but I will add 3 cups at a time, mixing well after each addition. For the peanuts, I will crush them with a rolling pin. I do this a lot with nuts when I'm baking because it's so much easier than chopping them with a knife or even using a blender to make sure they're in smaller pieces. There's no cleanup, you just throw away the baggie afterwards, or if you have any left over, you can use the bag to store them in. And then I will add the chocolate chips, and then I will make sure I will mix it very well to make sure everything is incorporated. Then I will empty out everything from my bowl onto a baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper, and I will make sure to smooth everything out with a spoon to make sure everything is nice and even. So I forgot to mention this, but preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and bake your granola bars for 10 minutes, and then flip them around and bake them for another 10 minutes until they're golden brown. While my granola bars are baking, I have to wash all of these dishes that I got dirty. And also, just in case I haven't mentioned and someone's wondering why I wash my dishes before I put them into the dishwasher, I just like to rinse all the food off of them, because I just feel like it makes sure that when I open the dishwasher at the end, everything will be spotless. I had a few times where some of the food would not wash off, so that's why I rinse it off now. It still has dish soap on it, so it's not completely clean. I just make sure to rinse all the food off, put it in, and then run the dishwasher, and that way it ensures that all the dishes will be nice and shiny and clean. After 10 minutes were over, I took them out. They were nice and golden brown. They looked beautiful and they smelled delicious. So for this recipe, you will need 1.5 cups flour, 1.5 cups rolled oats, 1 cup packed brown sugar, 1 teaspoon baking powder, half a teaspoon salt, 1 cup butter, and 10 to 12 ounces strawberry preserves, but I will use raspberry jam instead because I don't have any strawberry jam. My sweet baby boy just woke up from his nap, so of course he's going to pull up a chair and see what I'm doing. And I accidentally added the butter before I added the baking powder and salt, so he got a chance to put that in for me. Okay, so now it's time to spread the dough out in the baking sheet, and what I like to do is actually take it out of the baking sheet with the parchment paper, put it onto the counter, and put another sheet of parchment paper over the dough and roll it out like that with a rolling pin. It's a lot easier than spreading it out with your fingers, and it makes sure everything is even and smooth. After I'm done with that, I will spread out the raspberry jam, making sure everything is spread out evenly, and I will take the remaining dough and sprinkle it on top, and then I will bake it for 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is. Just keep an eye on it. When it's golden brown, then that means it's ready. And the oven also, it has to be preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, while the raspberry crumble bars are baking, I don't want to waste any time. I'm starting to make the chewy brownie cookies. I'm trying to finish all my baking before I have to go pick my daughter up from school. So for this recipe, I will need 12 ounces bittersweet chocolate chips, half a cup butter, 3 large eggs, 1 cup granulated sugar, a quarter cup brown sugar, 1 tablespoon vanilla extract, half a teaspoon baking powder, half a teaspoon salt, 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, a quarter cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 cup pecans, but instead of pecans I'm using walnuts, and half a cup mini semi-sweet chocolate chips. I didn't have the mini, so I just used the regular semi-sweet chocolate chips. The raspberry crumble bars are ready and they smell so good and they look delicious. Meanwhile, I put the butter and chocolate chips on low heat to melt, and I was keeping an eye on it and stirring it until it melted. While the butter and chocolate chips are melting, I'm going to beat the eggs, sugars, vanilla, baking powder, and salt on high speed for 5 minutes until it's thick and creamy. On the recipe, it says to add the melted butter and chocolate chips next, but instead I added the flour and cocoa powder, mixed it well, and then I added the melted chocolate chips and butter. So then I'm adding the semi-sweet chocolate chips and the crushed walnuts. When I was crushing the walnuts, somehow they got to the corner of the bag and created a hole, so I just decided to rip it open there and put them into the bowl and mix it up really good to make sure everything is incorporated. And the recipe says to cover the batter with plastic wrap and chill it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes, so that's what I'm doing. I will chill it for 30 minutes. Once the dough is nice and chilled, I will scoop it with a cookie scoop, and then I will bake it in an oven that's preheated to 350 degrees, 8 to 10 minutes. So now it's time to put everything away. I will trim the edges off of the granola bars and cut them up and put them into a Ziploc bag. As for the raspberry crumble bars, I will do the same thing, but I decided not to trim the edges. I thought they looked fine just like that, so I cut them into squares and put them also in a Ziploc bag. Some of the cookies were already cooled off, so I put them into the Ziploc bag, and the other baking sheet, they were still cooling off, they were still a little warm, and I also had one more baking sheet of cookies baking in the oven, so once everything cools off, I will put them in with the rest of the cookies.
That's all. My snacks are ready for the next week or two. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.